From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Tuesday, October 14th, and here are today's headlines. The Danville School Board has reluctantly agreed to hold a special election this December on whether to close the town's high school. The vote was prompted by a citizen petition organized by a local parent. If the school closes, students would be given publicly funded vouchers to attend the public or private school of their choice. Peter Mantius organized the petition. He also works at nearby St. Johnsbury Academy. The independent school has more than 10 times as many students as Danville. Mantius says it can offer pupils a richer menu of academic and extracurricular options than the public school where enrollment is dwindling.
This is something that I think I have a front row seat to, and I sometimes wish that the friends and community that my children are with had the same opportunities.
The referendum in Danville has been scheduled for December 6th. Families who rely on a daycare center at Mount Snow Resort in Dover say they're scrambling after learning about imminent changes. The center is owned by parent company Vail Resorts, and it informed them last week that starting in November, it would be prioritizing placements for children of employees. Other families could be put on a waiting list. Chris Mays reported on the change for the Brattleboro Reformer, and he spoke with Vermont Public about the 16 families who would be affected.
We're hearing from affected parents who say that they may have to quit their jobs. They feel like they lack alternative options, being in a rural area and having few child care programs available to them.
Mays said families alerted him to a new petition which calls for reinstating the community access to the resort's daycare program immediately. Parents are asking the resort to pause the change for one full ski season, among other things. Resort officials say, quote, the decision was not made lightly. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor will speak at a now sold-out crowd at the University of Vermont later this month. 7 Days reports that a select group, including retired politicians and journalists, alongside UVM staff, faculty, and students, received notification of the October 20th event last week. That's according to a university spokesperson who said tickets sold out in 10 minutes. Justice Sotomayor was nominated by President Obama in 2009. She is the first Latina justice and the longest-serving current member of the court's liberal bloc. The third woman ever to sit on the country's highest court is promoting her new children's book, Just Shine: How to Be a Better You. And Rutland Mayor Michael Dunges says he's ecstatic that city voters overwhelmingly approved a $3.9 million bond last week. The money will be used to update downtown power and water infrastructure and redesign Center Street. It will also pave the way for a new hotel and downtown housing.
To see an 85% positive opinion on a vote like this is just a huge support for the development and the focus that we're trying to put on growing our city to the place where, one, we see the growth that we need, and two, it makes it more affordable to live here.
Dunges says he expects the hotel developer will likely start cleaning up the building site this fall. He says water, utility, and streetscape work should begin next spring and finish by the end of the 2026 construction season. Coming up, we'll tell you how some grassroots advocates in Maine are trying to make traditional landline phones a go-to option for children instead of cell phones. That's after this. By the age of 8, nearly 1/4 of U.S. children own a cell phone, and most are smartphones with apps and internet access. For many parents, giving a child their own smartphone is a fraught milestone. But some are finding ways to avoid its pitfalls and still keep their preteens connected to friends. In Maine, one grassroots organization is encouraging parents to get a landline. As Maine Public Radio's Patty White reports, advocates of landline kids say that going old school is revolutionary.
Standing in the kitchen of her South Portland home, 8-year-old Piper Morse picks up a phone to call a friend.
Hi, Carly. What you doing?
There's lots to discuss. Soccer game scores,
Ooh.
an upcoming bake sale, and the latest on the social scene.
I'll see you at the party tonight. Bye. Bye.
The conversation may be typical for a third grader, but the phone connection is not. Piper is cradling a white plastic handset to her ear. It's connected by a long spiral cord to a base with a push-button dial pad. It's just a phone.
I like it because You don't have to look on a screen and there's buttons.
Piper's sister, Molly, who's 10, likes it too. And she says she's puzzled by the way that kids on the school bus pull out their smartphones and ignore each other.
Because people are sitting next to them who's their friends and stuff. And I'm like, put your phone down and just talk to people next to you.
This is probably the smartest parenting move I've made.
Karen Moore says she was dreading the day when her daughters would own smartphones. As a social worker at an elementary school, Moore says she sees firsthand the way that smartphones can expose kids to inappropriate content, online bullying, and monopolize their attention.
There definitely is a cell phone addiction in children right now.
As Morse worried about what to do, she thought about the phone she used growing up and wondered if her kids would embrace a landline. But for them to go along with the idea, she thought she'd need other families to do the same and started nudging neighbors and friends.
Get a landline with us, join us. It's not that complicated. It's not that expensive.
Now, a year later, Moore says about 24 families in her community have landlines, or internet phones that essentially function like a landline. And she's seen unexpected benefits. She says her daughters are better at conversations. They're not distracted like they were when they used her smartphone to call friends.
They took my cell phone and they would disappear, and there would be filters, and their voice would turn into, like a robot. Like, I don't even think they were talking. I don't think that they were actually learning how to communicate.
Moore says she and other parents were so happy with their landlines, they launched a Landline Kids website to encourage others to do the same.
Hello? Hey, Parker. I was wondering if you wanted to go fishing.
11-year-old Ashton Ladd of Scarborough got a landline last spring.
Once we get off the bus from school, we're kind of just isolated from all of our friends. But now that we have this, we're not really anymore.
His mom, Jen Ladd, says she and her husband wanted to stay in touch with Ashton and his 9-year-old sister Claire as they got older and were home alone from time to time. She liked the landline option because its focus is outward, for calling family and friends and making plans.
As opposed to just sitting on their phone by themselves and doing who knows what, I don't know, internet surfing or any number of other things that are just a little bit more secluded.
I mean, phones are very powerful devices that can open the world to huge amounts of information and content and people that are both positive and negative.
David Bickham, research director at the Digital Wellness Lab at Boston Children's Hospital, says smartphones can foster connection, but they can also contribute to loneliness and mental health issues. The key, he says, is to be thoughtful and intentional about their use.
What's really challenging about it is, how do I set it up so that it's not controlling me, I'm in control of it?
Bickham recommends parents to use settings that will encourage healthy use. Turn off notifications, require permission to download an app, explain why these controls are important. And Bickham says there's no one ideal age to get a smartphone, but
pushing it past that 9-10 age, which is really starting to be the most common age that young people get phones, pushing it beyond that as much as possible, I think it's probably fairly useful for kids.
In the meantime, he says, a landline is a viable option.
Hello.
Jen Ladd says her kids have learned skills from the landline that she hadn't expected.
It is fun. It's an independent thing for them to be able to do, to sort of like reach out to someone and make a plan or not. Like my daughter calls her friends and they tell jokes to each other.
Why is the toilet paper afraid to cross the road? Because he was afraid he'd get stuck in the cracks.
What's an easy way to delay getting a smartphone? For these parents, the answer to that riddle is get a landline. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Patty White.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Lola Dufour, Mary Engish, Jen Jarecki, and Nina Keck. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.